Hello everybody, and welcome to another brand new episode here on Chicken Sunny Side Up Farm. Alright, what are we doing today? Well, today we are getting the land ready for drilling of the canola. We've got we've got this field to drill. We're not doing too bad in here. Before I carry on, actually, I should just say I hope you're all having a good day, hope you're all well. I always forget that bit. Worryingly, it's on my notes of things to talk about. In actual fact, the note written today says, would you mind trying to be polite at the beginning of the video by saying I hope everyone's having a good day. But I always forget it. But yeah, so as I say, today we are out in the David Brown, and we've got our little helper. He's out on the plough, as you can see. We're out on the power harrow. I was going to try. Ooh, I'm missing some. I'm going to get sacked in the morning. I was going to try and have this David Brown pull the drill, but no, it won't do it. And unfortunately, I can't get no weight onto the front of the tractor. So we can't. If we could get weight onto the tractor, we could pull the drill. The tractor is more than capable of pulling the drill. As I say, the biggest problem is I've got no weight that I can put onto the front to keep the front down, because when I lift the drill up, obviously the front comes up with it. I mean, it's comical, you know. It looks very funny, you know, and I'm all for funny, but at the same time, it isn't going to work. Yeah, today we're just ploughing and not drilling, but ploughing and powering to get today. So we'll get this field finished, and then we can come in here then and then get it drilled, which will be good, because as I say, the quicker we can get the canola in, the better it will be, because it will be ready obviously earlier next year. And so it does mean that with our little tiny combine, all of the drilling doesn't come at once. Yeah, it's I think it will be a case that we will quickly catch up with the plough. That's not a problem. If that does happen, then we can toddle off and do something else. Yeah, so as I say, hope you're all having a good day. And it reminds me of my time on the first farm, so there's a bit of a prehistory with me and the first farm that I worked on. And basically what happened was, started year 10 at school, and in the October was work experience, which is when, for a fortnight before the half-term holiday, you go out obviously to a place of work and you gain some work experience. Now obviously I wanted to work on a farm. Only businesses that were approved by the school were allowed to go on there, so you'd go on to the work experience board and you would find you know, a company or a business that you would want to work for, and then you go from there. Well, that was all well and good, but a lot of the jobs on there were just stuff I was either not interested in, or you know, probably physically couldn't do. Although at the time I was being made to believe that my physical capabilities were considerably lower than what they actually were. So at the time, very close influences were kind of telling me that I couldn't do these things and I couldn't do this and I couldn't do that, when actually, you know, and unfortunately I didn't find out really until my mid sort of 20s, really late 20s, that I can do these things. You know, I can't do them because someone is telling me I can't do them, when the reality was that I could do them. And by the time that I'd started to do these things and enjoy these things, then, you know, things got worse, my health got worse, and now I can't do those things. You know, it's just one of those things. But yeah, so I sort of looked on the board, and I went to the careers officer, and I just said, like, I don't want to do any of those things. And they went, well, it's not about what you want to do, it's about just doing something. And I said, well, surely the best thing for work experience is that, I go off and have work experience of something that I quite actually want to do. And they said, well, yes, but then they said, we can't get factories to, to come on board. And I looked at the careers woman and I said to her, I said, factory? And she went, yeah. She goes, that's all you're going to do. She said, that's all you're good enough for. She said, I've seen your grades. She said, I've seen you. She said, like, you're going to be nothing more than a factory worker. So I said to her, I said, all right. I said, well, it could be worse. And she said, oh, how's that? I said, well, I could be a careers officer in a school where no one likes me. So I was always very quick-witted. She didn't like that. Yeah, and then the next the next time I went to see her, because in year 10, the 5th year block, which was obviously designed for year 11s, but year 10s would go in there every afternoon, and you would go and see the careers officer. And the next day that I went in there, she said, "Oh, I've thought about what you've said. Should you, it was a fair point." So I said, "Right." So she said, "I've got you a work experience place in a gym." So I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "I don't want to go in a gym." She said, "Oh yeah, but you need it." She goes, "You could do with losing quite a few pounds, couldn't you?" And I was kind of like, I went, "So which one are you then?" And she looked at me really got out. I said, "Are you pot or kettle?" And she kind of sort of like, was not very happy with my response. And I said, "I don't suppose," I said, "you've got any careers opportunities in like a comedy club or anything, have you?" I said, "Because at the moment," I said, "I'm laughing the arse off you." And anyway, eventually I went to my head of year, and he was a weird man, but he was also a fair man. He was a little bit on the sort of pervy side, but at the same time, he was a very fair man. And I went to see him, and I said, "Look, I said, I don't like the careers officer. I don't like anything that's on the board." I said, "Can I not go out and find my own opportunity?" And he goes, "What do you want to do?" So I said, "I want to work on a farm." I said, "That's what I want to do." I said, like, I've always wanted to do it. I've wanted to do it since I was a wee small boy. I said, "I want to work on a farm." I said, "If I can get myself a work experience place on a farm, would you be willing to sign it off to let me go?" So he said, "Yes, okay." He said, "I'll do that." He said, I will override her and I'll let you do that. You've got to go and find, though, a place." He said, like, "We're not going to do it for you." So I said, "That's fine." So the weekend came, off I toddles around local farms, all of them said no. And eventually, the one I went to was the one I didn't go to first, even though it was the one I wanted to go to, but I didn't go to them first because I just didn't think they would say yes. And so I went to them and I said, like, I've got to do work experience, for the school, and I really want to work on a farm. Granddad worked here, Uncle Dick worked here, Uncle George worked here, Nan works here, blah, blah, blah. I want to work on a farm. I want to work on this farm in particular, because, as I say, the whole family kind of has worked here at some point. I said, like, and would you be willing to take me for a fortnight? I said, like, you don't have to put me on any tractors or anything like that. You can just get me, like, sweeping up and, whatever it is that you do. And anyway, they kind of thought about it, and he said, "What I'll do is I'll have a think about it." I said, "Right." He said, "And then I'll get back to you." So I said, "Okay." So I was thinking, probably not going to hear anything, but in all fairness to them, actually. So that Saturday afternoon, my dad took me to football to go and see Peterborough United play, which is what we did most Saturdays when they were playing in Peterborough. When I get home, Mum says, "Oh, you had a visitor this afternoon." So I said, "Oh, did I?" I said, "Who was that then?" Because I, obviously didn't get any visitors, mainly because we lived in the blooming arse end of nowhere. It was an epic voyage for anyone from sort of school that wanted to come out and see, or any sort of friend. We lived really sort of out in the middle of nowhere. Anyway, so I said, "Who was that?" So she said, "Oh, it was, it was Anthony." So I said, "All right." So she said, "I didn't really get the message." So I said, "Right." He just said, "Yeah, that's fine. Can you go and see him tomorrow?" So I was like, "Oh, excellent." I was like, "Yeah." I said, "All right, I'll go see him." So she goes, "What's it about then?" So I said, "Oh, nothing." I said, "I just asked him a question and see if he would help me." I said, "I just asked him if he'd help me." I said, and obviously he's going to help me. So I said, "That's brilliant." So, and I didn't say anything, not because I didn't, really want sort of mum to know, but as I say, someone in my younger years was kind of telling me, "Oh, you can't play football, you can't do this, you can't do that." And as I say, it turned out that I could do a lot of those things, so I didn't, I sort of didn't want to say anything because I didn't want her to turn around and go, well, no, or go behind my back and say, no, he's not, doing this. So anyway, went off on the Sunday and spoke to him, and he gave me the sort of information and everything that I needed, and went back to school because I said to him, like, I've got to get signed off. With the school, I said, like, it's not just a case of you've said yes, now I can go. I said, I have to get the school to, to agree to it now. And he said, that's no problem. He said, when will you know? He said, because obviously I would like to know so I can plan and prepare for when you're coming. So I said, well, I'll speak to the teacher involved tomorrow, I said, at school, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I have an answer. So he said, okay, fair enough. So anyway, I went to my teacher and said to him, like, I've got a farm, and he said, like, do they employ people, or are they, I said, no, they employ people. So he said, okay, so they have to comply to all health and safety regulations. So I said, yeah. So he said, okay. He said, yeah, I'll sign it off. So he signed it off. Like, I think in the end I had to take a letter to the farm. They had to then sign it, and then I had to take it back to the school. But anyway, I did that, and yeah, I went there, as I say, in the October, 2 weeks before the half term, day number 1, and didn't really know what to expect. Biked there because it was roughly about a mile, maybe just over a mile from my house. So I biked there, and extremely nervous, extremely excited, because I was sort of getting to go and work on a farm, which was just like awesome. I was sort of like, what was I, sort of 14, maybe 15 years of age, and I was sort of going to work on a farm, and I don't know why, but I just assumed that if you went somewhere on work experience, that was the place you were going to work when you left school, that it was kind of like your 2-week trial period, and that was where you was going. Obviously it didn't work out like that, and I got there, and that first day that I was there in the October, they were awesome drilling, and he said to me, he said, what I want you to do is I want you to drive the David Brown 996. So I said, yeah. He said, we'll put dual wheels on it. So I said, right. He said, and we've already done that. So I said, yeah. He said, you get in it. He said, and we'll take the rolls up to the field, and you can roll behind the drill. So I was like, okay. So he said, nice and slow. He said, don't need to go fast. He said, because I don't want you catching the drill up. He said, like, because if you catch the drill up, then I've got nothing for you to do. He said, like, we should be drilling for the next sort of week and a half at least. He said, there does talk of a little bit of rain coming. He said, but not for another week or so. So he said, like, you keep going. He said, you're on a half term when you finish 2 weeks here, aren't you? So I said, yeah. He said, you can stay on and you can help us, and that's fine. He said, like, and yeah, if you want to, he said, obviously you don't have to. He said, but if you want to, you can stay on and you can help us rolling and that. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. And that first day in my little David Brown, going up and down, well, I'd been going up and down about, I don't know, an hour or so. And so John, who worked on the farm, he was sort of basically the head tractor driver. He did all the main jobs on the farm. And then you had Ray and Vic, and they were sort of just general tractor drivers. So John comes over and he says, like, you know, morning, blah blah blah. So he said, for dinner, he said, I'll go back up to the yard. He said, and I have it with Ray the gardener. So I said, right. He said, do you want to come up with me? He said, so you're not sat in here on your own. So I said, yeah. I said, that would be cool. And because, like, you know, I mean, you know, as kids, you're supposed to have heroes, but they're supposed to be like the Undertaker or, you know, Mark Hughes or, you know, some footballer or, you know. But my hero, I had two heroes in my life at that age of 15, and that was my uncle Stephen, because he worked for AH Worths. He was sort of like the head tractor driver there, and John Butler, who was working on the farm that I was working on. They were like my two heroes in life. And because they did all the cool jobs on the farm that I wanted to do, you know, I wanted to drive the combine, I wanted to do the drilling, I wanted to do the ploughing, I wanted to do, you know, so that they were sort of like my heroes. So here it is, you know, like I'm sort of like, I can't remember if I was 14 or 15, and then now he's now saying to me, oh, you can come back for dinner with me, like, you know, you can come and have your dinner with me. And I just like felt so honoured and privileged, and I couldn't wait till dinner. Anyway, dinner came, and he came and fetched me, and we went down on a old David Brown that eventually I would know as the dyke cutter, but at the time it had the scissor lift C trailer on the back, because that was how they used to fill the drill up. So they had an old, well, I say old, but they had a Machio combination C drill, which was a really nice C drill on the back of a case 1255 XL, I think it was, something like that. I can't remember exactly now what it was, but it was the big case sort of XL model. And as I had the David Brown 996, and this other David Brown, which was a 1210, was it? I can't remember now, but and there was one actually in either FS17 or FS 17. It was an FS17, and the reason I know it was FS17 was because I used that tractor extensively on the Germantown map. Yeah, that was my main save for FS17. So I played on there with it. But yeah, so we went down to Ray the gardener, and we sat in this shed, and we had dinner, and that sort of broke the day up, because the one thing that had surprised me in the morning was I was really struggling to cope with no noise. Yes, you had the noise of the tractor and, you know, the rolls sort of jangling behind you, but there was no talking, there was no singing, there was no radio in that tractor. And I think with hindsight now, and it would be a lot different now if I went for work experience there now, because I would imagine they would put you on the 6210 John Deere, and of course that has a radio, and it's also the tractor they now do the rolling with. And so I think, you know, things would have been very different. But the one thing in the morning that I'd kind of was surprised at how I felt was with the loneliness of being on my own in this tractor, and I found that quite hard to deal with. And then to go for my lunch with John and Ray the gardener, who I didn't know Ray the gardener. I knew of Ray, I knew of him. I didn't actually know him, and I'd never actually spoken to him. But everyone else on the farm I knew and had spoken to, and probably had rides on the tractor with, and like whatever. So the rest of them I knew, but I just didn't know him. So I kind of sort of got that day broke up, and I was at work until 4, but if I wanted to, I could stay on till 5. And that afternoon was a bit better. But not ever so better. Like, it wasn't, but it was a bit better. But I still found it quite lonely and very isolating. You know. Anyway, next day, didn't realise what the time was, and missed my ride back to the farm. So it meant that not only was I in the tractor all morning sort of by myself, but I'd now missed that kind of break that I'd had the day before, and in missing that break that I'd had the day before, it meant that it was a continual silence. And I went home that day, and I went into my nan was at ours to tea, because my nan used to come. So the day would vary, but it was usually a Tuesday or Wednesday when nan would come to tea, and my nan was there. I remember it well, and I came home, and I was really sort of struggling, and my dad was in the garage, and I went to the garage with my dad, and sort of he was in there, and I got really upset, and then he was like, well, you know, what's wrong? And I sort of said to him, I said, Dad, I can't take sitting on my own all day. And I said, like, I just can't. I said, I need people, I need noise, I need talking, I need, you know, I need something to kind of just break the monotony, instead of going up and down a field all day. And you know, he sort of said, well, yeah, but that's the life of a tractor driver. And I said, even if it was just a radio that I had, so I could just listen to someone else talking, or some music or whatever. So anyway, he was like, he goes, well, I don't really know what to say. He said, like, you know, that's what tractor driving is. He said, and unfortunately, you don't get to drive the nice tractors with the radios and the air conditioning and the comfy seats and everything until you've done your apprenticeship. You know, he said, you're only there for a fortnight. He said, like, you know, they're not going to give you, you know, the best tractor on the farm. He said, unfortunately, you're just going to have to put up with it. He said, and that's what farming is. So Wednesday comes, and as I say, that was the night my nan was at tea. Yeah, so on the Tuesday, that was what I said to my dad. On the Wednesday, my nan was there to tea, and I'm sitting at the tea table, and I'm really down, you know, and I'm really sort of kind of depressed. And my nan goes, "Oh, you're quiet," and I just said, "Look, just leave me alone." I said, "Like, you know," and because my nan was one of these people that as soon as you said just leave me alone, she would antagonise you, because she wanted to get a reaction out. And because I sort of snapped, but not in the way of being nasty to her. I just broke down in tears, and I just started crying. And then it was kind of like, you know, my mum was like, you know, kind of, well, you know, what's wrong? Because my dad, I'm sat next to my dad, as I always did do, and he sort of puts his arm around my shoulder, and he says, look, you know, he says, it's only been a few days, you'll be fine, you know, you've just got to get used to it. Anyway, didn't go in on the Thursday because I just couldn't take the isolation, so I sort of let myself down a bit there. Didn't go in on the Thursday, and went in on the Friday. On the Friday, I wasn't allowed on the tractors because my dad had sort of kind of taken me on the Thursday and explained what was wrong, and they said, okay, you know, all he had to do was say something, and you know, we would have changed it. You know, we could have given him something else. Well, and I mean, I'm still the same today. I don't like, you know, making a fuss or going to people and asking for things, or saying, you know, oh, you know, I just don't. And this is, you know, one of my biggest problems in life, and I think why people do walk all over me is because I tend to suffer it, not say anything. And so anyway, that day I was in the grain stores and I was levelling. I was on top of the grain heap in the grain stores, levelling all the grain off and making sure the heap was level. And I did some like tunnel clearing and sweeping and what have you. I went home at 1 o'clock that day because that was the time that, well, in all fairness, I was due to stay till 4, but he came to me and said, like, you can go home. And now he said, 'cause I haven't really got much for you to do this afternoon. So he said, I'll see you on Monday. So I said, okay. So went back on the Monday, and the rest of the week was just kind of filled with odd jobs. So like I took the blades off the disc arrows and the discs. They were all pre-jacked up, so all I had to do was go in and take them off. And as I've said before, you know, I'm not a practical person, and I'm not very good at mechanics. Yes, I know a lot more now than what I did then, and I can do a lot more now than what I could then, but I really struggled with that job, you know, and I sort of struggled through the rest of that week, and I was really surprised and I was really disappointed because, you know, this dream scenario that I dreamed about, you know, sort of every night, you know, going to work with my mum on the little farm, you know, the little bull farm that she worked on and what have you, and driving the tractors on there and, you know, and everything like that. And I genuinely thought that I was just put on the earth to do that. And that sort of fortnight had been really not very good because it turned out that a lot of the like maintenance jobs that they wanted me to do I couldn't do. I mean, in all fairness to me, you know, I was 14, 15 years of age. No one showed me. They just literally, you know, the boss sort of would take me to it and go, I want them on there, but he wouldn't show me how to do one. You know, he wouldn't do one first just to show me like kind of, and I was like, okay. I said, well, I don't really know. He goes, you'll have to figure it out. He said, like, you know, you have to, when you go to work, you have to use your own initiative. And I was like, well, that's fine, but would it really hurt you to show me, just put one on and say that's how it goes, and yeah, I just want you to do the rest. But as I say, they didn't, and so you know, I sort of went away from that work experience, and so I was really disappointed, and I was really surprised, and everything, and it kind of put me. I didn't. It wasn't that I didn't want to go into. I still wanted to do farming, but I kind of wanted to miss out the beginning bit. I wanted to go straight to the big machinery, you know. But then I sort of kind of thought to myself, well, actually, you know, if I get another opportunity, then you know, what I'll do is I'll take my Walkman with me. I'll buy a Walkman because I didn't have one at the time. I'll buy a Walkman and I'll just take my, you know, kind of my music with me, and I'll listen to my Walkman all day. Like, I thought, you know, that's a way around it. You know, that's, you know, you've got, you know, sort of a bit like the boss said, you know, you've got to start using your initiative a little bit, and so that's kind of what I sort of thought. But yeah, it was really odd, as I say, and it took me. So that was in 1996 when I went there on work experience. I left school in 97. And then I just continually asked them for a job, and they just kept saying no. And eventually I gave up, and eventually I went into a factory. I went into a turkey factory, which was I worked for a company that sort of says, is it That's Beautiful or something like that. So everyone in England will know who I'm talking about. And yeah, I worked for them, and that was interesting to say the least. The smells were horrendous, the noise was incredible, the people were complete a-holes. Just I hated every second of that job. Eventually I got sacked from that. I fell out. So there was this girl in there called Donna, and I really liked her, I really fancied her, so I thought, you know, I'll ask her out. You know, bearing in mind I'm like 17 years of age, right? I'm 16, 17 years of age, right? I was probably 17 at the time, right? So I sort of says to her, you know, oh, do you want to go out? So she goes, no, I'm married, sorry. So I said, so that don't matter, does it? And she sort of looked at me and she went, well, of course it matters. She said, I love my husband. I said, well, I'm asking you out for a drink. I'm not asking you out, you know, for anything else, you know. So she's like, no. So anyway, in the end, she's obviously gone off and told her husband. Well, he's then got the and he's come over to me, and he's had a bit of a, you know, he's having a bit of a go, and I'm sort of standing there because at sort of that age I was really cocky. I didn't really have any fear of anyone or anything, apart from sitting in tractors on my own apparently, but sort of anything else I sort of didn't really have. And so I gave him a mouthful back, and then there was a bit of pushing and shoving, and I think I threw a punch that didn't really land as such, but it just sort of caught him. It sort of brushed across his nose and sort of made his nose bleed a bit, and because I didn't realise he was one of the managers there, and we both got in trouble, but I got sacked. So that was, you know, that was fun, but I didn't mind. I just thought, oh, thank God for that. This is the most depressing place to work ever. Yeah, so that was kind of my first forays into work. But as I say, the farm that I went on to the work experience with, eventually I did work there. So in 2006, and I've told the story, so I'm not going to tell it again, but I hired a tractor and plough, and went and did another 2 weeks there, funnily enough, and excelled. You know, they just said like, you know, wow. But the one thing that you know, my work experience kind of taught me was that mental health in tractor driving, in farming in general, you know, whether it's the farmer with, you know, what's going on in farming at the moment, or just in general when the business is struggling, when you're not getting a fair price for your produce, and, you know, and all of those kind of things. Mental health in farming is you know, we have this big thing in the UK where, you know, oh, you know, you have to talk, you know, just pick up the phone, you know, just, you know, take a friend out for a coffee or a drink or whatever, and do you know what I mean? Like, but everyone kind of forgets about farmers and about, you know, as I say, farmers as in, you know, sort of like the farm owners, and, you know, whose business it is and whose livelihood it is, and that. And also the tractor drivers. Now, I mentioned the tractor drivers because when I worked on the second farm, now by this point I was a very different person. I'd been through a lot of different things, and what all of that had done was it made me want to be on my own all the time, because I just couldn't believe how unkind and cruel people were most of the time, or the people that I'd come across, you know. So I just wanted to be on my own all the time. So the second time when I went on a farm, you know, being on my own all day isolated didn't bother me. I rather enjoyed it. I had the radio. I had the radio on in the morning and in the afternoon. I'd just sit there and, you know, sort of hum tunes to myself, or, you know, sort of whatever, you know, talk to myself, whatever. And I loved it. When I got to the second farm, it changed again, really. Yes, I still had the radios. Yes, you know, I was driving sort of, you know, brand new Challengers. I was driving top of the range tractors and nice machinery and stuff like that. And so everything was sort of kind of good. But then GPS is coming in, you know, everything being automated on the headlands was coming in. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do that, but I found myself being bored a lot of the day. You know, because suddenly my Challenger was able and capable of doing everything on the headland itself, lifting the plough, you know, turning the plough over, you know, sort of all I had to do basically was steer it at the end, turn it round and take it back in. Now you don't even do that. I mean, I was on the tractor the other day, a couple of days ago with Kerry, and she was ploughing, and she literally just sits back. And she, you know, she takes a book, she's got a tablet in there with her, she's got, like, obviously her phone and that. And I said to her, I said, you know, I said, it's a good job you don't forget about, like, turning around at the end. She said, oh, I don't turn around at the end anymore. Because when I got there, she was on a tablet and she was playing Candy Crush. And I said to her, like, we was coming to work, and I said, oh, it's a good job you've not forgotten about turning around. She goes, oh, I don't turn around anymore. So I said, what do you mean you don't turn around anymore? She goes, you'll see. And we literally get to the exact same mark every time in the field, like, you know, where it needs to, and it just, like, literally picks the plough up, turns it around, turns her vent around. She's got a vent, one of the smaller vents. I forget I can't remember the number, the model of the smaller vent crawler. And she just sat there, like, and I said to her, I said, quite, I'll do my head in. And she was like, why? I said, well, because I said part of tractor driver, the part of the challenges is A, driving straight. I said, B, turning around at the end. And she was like, yeah, but you had GPS. And I said, yeah. I said, I used it in fields where, like, it was imperative and important that I used it. I said, you know, like in potato land or whatever. I said, like, you know, where we had to keep it absolutely dead straight. I said, then I would use it. But I said, if we were just ploughing for, like, autumn drilling, or ploughing, you know, wheat stubble or whatever, and there was just another cereal crop going in behind it, you know, plough freehand. Well, apparently now they're not allowed to plough freehand. They want everything to be absolutely dead straight, spot on, bang, 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 bang. Now they can't do it freehand. And I said to her, I said, like, don't you get fed up? And she said, no. And I said, but you're not doing anything. And she said, oh, I am. She said, I'm out. She said, the sun's out today, James. She said, I'm riding in a really nice tractor. She said, I love tractors. She said, playing my games. She said, I'm reading my book. She said, I read my book. She said, you know, text my boyfriend. She said, like, do this, do that. You know, she said, no, I have it's fantastic. And I just sort of kind of thought, nah, it's not. You know, that's not how tractor driving should be. You know, I know it's the way the world's going. I understand that, and you know, and farms and businesses are going to progress with the technology that comes out. I get all that, but I was just kind of like, nah. You know, I think I would end up feeling like I did the first time round, lonely, isolated, bored. You know, and I just thought, nah. You know, I couldn't do it, and I said to her, you know, I said, I bet there are a lot of tractor. I said, like, you've obviously got a great outlook on it. I said, like, and that's fine. I said, and that's brilliant. I said, and it's good that you have. I said, but I bet there's a lot of tractor drivers out there that don't have such a good outlook. And she went, oh, we've got a couple. She said that were tractor drivers. She said that no longer now do tractor driving. She said because it drives them insane. They just said, like, you know, they can't cope. And I was like, but yeah, I said, like, I can kind of get it. You know, it's you know, she said, and the thing is, she said, now that we've got all these things in our tractors and all the technology and everything going with it. I said, yeah. She goes, now we're expected to work longer because we're not doing as much. And I was like, I said, yeah, exactly. And she said, like, that is one thing. She said, like, you know, we were contracted, she said, like, you know, till 7 every night. And I said, yeah. She said, well, I'm now contracted till 10. And their argument is that actually I don't do anything now in the day. I literally drive it to the field, set it up, and then it does the rest. And I was like, well, you know, I said, that's, you know, I said, it's changing, isn't it? And she's like, it's changed, mate. She said, like, there's no it's changing. She said, it's changed. It's, you know, what we knew when we first started, because we're roughly we're a similar age, myself and Gary. And she said, what we knew when we started, you know, sort of tractor driving, she said, it isn't like that no more. And I said, no. I said, no, it's a shame. And she said, well, it is. She said, but another way it isn't. You know, she said, you know, the world is growing, you know, really, really, you know, sort of exponentially, and we need to be able to produce food accurately, fast, efficiently, cost effectively. You know, she said, and all of these things are making me that. You know, she said, and eventually they're not going to need me at all. You know, should eventually they're just going to program a computer, it's going to drive to the field, it's going to go into the field, it's going to plough the field, and it's just going to keep going 24 hours of every day. You know, she said, like, you know, and that's the way the world's going to be. She said, because, you know these machines are going to have solar panels and other ways of charging batteries so that they can just keep running 24 hours of every day. And I just said to her, I said, I think you're right. I said, sadly, I said, but you know, she said, I just said, like, you know, I couldn't sit and do this. I said, you know, part of my fun day at work was, you know, can I drive straight today? Can I drive straight all day today? You know, and occasionally, and this was more on the first farm than the second farm, but occasionally when I was ploughing, I would deliberately put bends and curls in it to practice ploughing them out, so that, you know, I could then get it to be ploughed straight again. So I'd deliberately mess it up sometimes just to kind of then have to put it right. And as I say, like, you know, you just can't get away with that no more. And it's such a shame, but hey, you know, that's the way it is, I suppose. And as I say, technology kind of moves on a little bit, but yeah, I can't help but feel that, as I say, mental illness in farming is going to go through the roof. It's going to get even worse than what it already is and what it already was. And as I say, with everything that's happening in the world, in Great Britain at the moment, with, you know, sort of farms and everything that's going on, it's, you know, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse, and you know, I don't really see no end to it at the moment, but there we go. Anyway, as you can see, we've got quite a bit done in this episode, because we started obviously right down there. We're just trudging along quite nicely, nice and steady, making a nice job, breaking it up, and we'll have this ready, and then, as I say, the next episode we will be in here and we will be drilling the canola, and as I say, the ground will already be pre-broken down, so we won't need no powers in front, and it should go very nicely. I think this tractor might even pull the rolls this year with the bigger dual wheels on, and we might give that little David Brown, take those dual wheels off there, and just let it pull the header trailer around and do the odd sort of jobs around the farm. I don't know. I might leave it to still do the rolling, just because these tractors get to do baling and carting and powering and stuff like that, whereas that one doesn't really get used. I suppose if I only did the header trailer with it, it would only get used once a year. But yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the episode. I hope you've enjoyed the sort of little wander down memory lane today. If you have, let me know in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about you know, sort of mental illness in farming, and the way that things are going, not only in this country but in the world, and technology in general. You know, let me know. But if you have liked this video today, please consider to subscribe and hit that thumbs up, and I can't wait to see you in the next episode. Bye for now.